Hi, welcome to Minutes with Mickey, a time to wonder about the first of three of our Christmas stories. This one is called Gabriel's Announcements, and we find this in the text in Luke chapter 1, verses 5 through 80. This particular story revolves around three special people. One is the angel Gabriel, who makes these announcements to two people, one Zechariah the priest and the other to Mary, the young woman. I'd like us to think about for a minute the meanings of the names that are mentioned in this particular story. What does the name Gabriel mean? Why is this archangel mentioned by specific name? Why doesn't it just simply say an angel came? What is it about Gabriel that means that he should be the one that should bring this news to both to Zechariah and to Mary? Next, what does the name Zechariah mean? We have in the Old Testament a prophet that was named like this. We know that Zechariah in this context is a priest from the Levi family. So is there something important about his name? Is there something that we need to look at about his lineage? Thirdly, what does the name John mean? Gabriel told Zechariah to name his son John. And so what does the significance there? Next, Gabriel told Mary to name her son Jesus. What does the name Jesus mean? It'd be sort of interesting to do a little search on what those names mean. Now, we have two people being spoken to by an angel, by the angel Gabriel, and we have two responses or two different styles of response by the people that are spoken to, and both of them have different answers given to the questions that they ask. Let's compare the two a little bit and see why the responses of the angel was so different to Zechariah than it was to Mary. First of all, Zechariah is a priest. He's an older gentleman. He is given this one opportunity, probably the one opportunity of a lifetime, as there were so many priests, to be able to take the prayers of the people into the Holy of Holies and receive the forgiveness of God at that moment, and then come out of the Holy of Holies and tell the people that their sacrifice and their prayers have been heard. This was his job. This was his task. This is what he got to do. At the same time, apparently he and Elizabeth had been praying personally for a child for a long, long time. So when Zechariah is in the Holy of Holies, he's in there, he is offering the prayers and the sacrifices of the people to God. An angel appears to him and says, Zechariah, your prayers have been heard and answered. Your wife Elizabeth will have a child. And Zechariah doesn't believe it. So what does that mean? Isn't that his job to offer these prayers and to consider these things and to expect that God is going to answer them? But he didn't. So maybe that's why there was this judgment on him, that in order to prove that he had seen an angel and that it was something that God was actually going to do, he was struck dumb. Then there's Mary. She wasn't praying for a child. She wasn't asking for anything. She was just simply minding her own business when the angel appeared to her and said that she was someone who had God's favor. This was a stunning thing. This was an announcement to her more than it was saying, your prayers have been answered. So for her to question it, she questions on a totally different level, which is why, in a sense, nothing bad happened to her? Perhaps. Do you see the two different changes, the two angles here? You have one person who really should have known better and another person who's young and innocent. And so the same question may come, how can this be? This is not possible. Then I'd like us to think about this. It made me wonder, my goodness, Zechariah, he was a priest. He knew all about Scripture. Why is it that he would have thought that he and Elizabeth were too old? Didn't he remember the story of Abraham and Sarah being an elderly couple and having a baby, promised that God was going to answer their prayers? Zechariah, what kind of a priest was he? Was he a priest that just simply thought about what it was that he should be doing and didn't really truly believe? Is there something here going on? I wondered about that. And then for Mary, she, as a young woman, we tend to think of her as being very young and maybe not even very smart. And yet, when she went to visit Elizabeth, and Elizabeth said, "You are carrying the Messiah," Mary broke out into song, which we refer to as Mary's song. And actually, what she's doing is quoting scripture from 1 Samuel, Hannah's song, when Hannah knew that she was going to have Samuel. So, Mary must have known scripture. She knew scripture well enough so that when this happened to her and when she and Elizabeth had this exchange, she could recite all that scripture. She knew the biblical text. Isn't that interesting? It just sort of made me wonder, what kind of a Christian am I? Am I the kind that prays and prays and prays, and then when something wonderful does happen, I wonder, how can that be? Or am I someone who is so entrenched in Scripture that when something does happen, I know that it's from God and I can give God the glory by His own words? How about you? What is God saying to you as you look at the differences between these people and their walk with God? Have a great week.